This video was going to be a sort of review of Ashes of Creation, but having queued for it, fought the 504 boss and then finally played it for a while, it kinda doesn't feel fair to do so. It is currently very alpha, even if it is available on early access. It feels a bit messy and buggy and weird overall, but there is a decent game under all that, or at least the beginnings of one, and I enjoyed it well enough. I assume so much is going to change and get fixed as time rolls by that any gripes will cease to be gripes at some point, so I won't do it a disservice like that, and we'll just check back in every so often and see how it is coming along like any one of a number of MMORPGs I try out. I do get some of the heat I saw coming from people on the Steam forums moaning about the fact that the game has been in development for 10 years and so we should expect more perhaps, but I also sort of agree that what exactly do you expect from an MMORPG launch these days? Queues and other issues beset even the most seasoned of games. Although, is this really a launch, bearing in mind that it is still Alpha 2? I have no skin in the game other than I like MMORPGs. I'm not a Kickstarter backer and I am probably not the original type of player the game was aimed at, that being a fan of old school, more hardcore MMORPGs. And I say originally because I also saw some people bemoaning the fact that it was releasing on Steam and the fact that the devs had apparently said it wouldn't, but well, here we are and here it is. And there I was, putting my hand in my pocket for some of that disposable income so I could get access to an unfinished game purely out of curiosity. Pro tip, don't have any kids. Then you can have the money and the time to waste on playing unfinished MMORPGs. Aside from the usual set of people threatening not to play the game if it had gone woke or seemingly without any provocation proclaiming how they want games to go back to having sexy women again or not have any of those weird people, don't you ever get tired of that shit? I mean, clearly not, so carry on I guess. I'm sure someone is listening to your incredibly influential and important opinions. There was a few murmurings around worries that the release on Steam was signalling a bit of a change in direction for the game and perhaps a lean towards the more casual player base. That and people starting threads asking whether this game is for casuals, which would often be met by people saying anything from "I guess" to "maybe earlier on but you may struggle later" to "if you are not up for the arduous grind and putting in the work then an emphatic no and this isn't the game for you." And obviously some more weird and toxic opinions as well. Those guys can hang out with the other guys who want to go back to when women were sexy and had pointy polygonal tits. I hope you're all very happy with each other. And your tits. But it did get me thinking about how important are casuals in a genre that ultimately is perhaps aimed at more hardcore players. And I say ultimately because if we follow an MMORPG to its logical conclusion, that is the end game, raiding and such, which is typically seen as hardcore. Now in reality we know that isn't entirely true, as these games are designed with so many different playstyles included that even if it was originally intended to give players other activities for a bit of downtime, they do in fact cater to a multitude of different tastes and interests. I think that if we were to actually get accurate statistics, we would probably find that casuals, as we might refer to them, are likely the majority of any MMORPG player base, despite what a small but loud minority might say. I mean, I don't even think we need stats, our eyes can probably just tell us that. And I think it is that minority that has sparked these musings that I had and who, if anyone, I am talking to in this video. I have followed the development of Ashes of Creation from a distance for quite a while, so I am in no way an expert. But watching update videos from different creators over the years, the impression I always got was that this was a game that was being driven by that minority, which would potentially make them the majority in terms of Ashes of Creation, but you know what I mean. It felt like there was a focus on many of the more hardcore elements of older games and a desire from those backing the project and the man heading it all up, who is a legitimate fan of the genre, to go back, as it were, to a time when there was more social focus and a requirement for group content in MMORPGs. I'll also be honest and say that it felt like a more toxic fanbase from what I observed, but as I said, from a distance, so any opinions I have formed are based on what limited info I have. So I could always be wrong and would be happy to be so. But certainly a lot of the Steam forum threads prattling on about how it will only ever use male and female instead of body types didn't exactly do much to assuage those feelings. But what do I know, right? Stupid woke old man. Anyway, within these minorities, i.e. hardcore players, which ironically is a term that I think is blurring more and more as time passes, there seems to be a feeling and indeed a resentment that games are catering too much to casual players. But what exactly is a casual MMORPG player? Well, you could argue that if you are into MMORPGs, even just to level characters, adventure and collect cosmetics rather than raid or PvP, then you aren't really a casual gamer at all. A casual gamer is probably better represented by someone that plays the odd game of COD or FIFA every now and then. Even the most casual of MMORPG players are probably way more hardcore than your average casual gamer overall. But in the genre in general, casual and hardcore does sort of serve as a way of classifying the different types of player, even if it is just one side wanting to use it more as a put down. And casuals have termed for hardcore players that could be seen as derogatory, like tryhards or them being a bit sweaty, so no one is completely innocent, I guess, but it does seem like most of the hate travels in one direction. I've seen some people calling themselves midcore, but I personally have always preferred the term committed casual. So a casual is someone who doesn't really worry too much about keeping up or experiencing every part of the game or raiding or raids occasionally, rather than someone who we might refer to as no-lifing the game, which is another term I don't particularly like because it does have negative connotations attached to it, and personally I think if you like something and you want to spend as much time as possible playing it or doing it, then you go right ahead and knock yourself out. People should do what they enjoy. Christ knows there's little joy left in this world, so if you find joy in anything, then have at it. But are games being ruined because they are catering too much to casuals? And are there reasons why companies may do so? Whilst doing a bit of research, and by research I mean typing "how important are casuals to MMORPGs" into Google like your grandmother is looking for answers online, I found a plethora of different opinions, many overlapping like the world's most demented Venn diagram. They came from Reddit threads and articles across a number of years, but I think one poster summed it up quite succinctly by saying, ask 100 different players and you'll get 100 different answers. Very sage. Some say it is simply a matter of time invested. Some say it is about chasing best in slot gear. Or some that it is about being competitive. It probably isn't as simple as that because I do consider myself a casual, but if we took it on time invested, then I would then be classed as hardcore under those metrics. Many of those opinions, even as far back as a decade ago, would reinforce the truth that perhaps whilst the term is thrown around a lot, it perhaps doesn't really even apply anymore. And the thinking behind that would be that no person is consistent. People change over time, enjoy different activities at different times, and perhaps swing back and forth. One thing that seemed to be generally agreed upon, and something that I would subscribe to myself, is that the majority of any MMORPG player base, as I said a moment ago, is casual. So are they even casual anymore, or just normal players? Whatever that means. So I think again about that small portion of players who like to throw the word around, and what do they mean by it? Is there an attitude towards casuals as it being a skill issue? Like, if you can't do what I can do, you are not a legitimate player? Personally, I don't really give a shit what anyone else enjoys in a game, and not to get all psychoanalyst about things, but is the kind of attitude displayed by the minority some kind of defense mechanism to make themselves feel better about the time they have dedicated to the game? In a world that grinds you under its boot, are they just looking for anything to validate themselves and their self-worth? Maybe, maybe not. But I am not a psychoanalyst, so even though you didn't ask me, don't ask me. There is a problem in the gaming space, as well as other media, of wanting people to get out of their game, to leave their game alone, or to stop changing their game. And I always have a problem with that sentiment. Like, what exactly do you mean, your game? No game is your game. And why do people even feel entitled to make that claim? With as much respect as I can muster, it feels like a childish way of thinking. Don't get me wrong, I do get it on some level. I would compare it to loving a band's old releases, and then as they become more successful, you get annoyed because they change, get a different fan base, and those people, well, they don't know what good music was like you do. But everything is subjective. I've said this before, but I like early AFI, and I don't like current AFI. But that's cool, it isn't for me anymore. It's now for someone else. As much as I wanted them to keep banging out Shut Your Mouth or Black Sail style albums, that's just not what is going to happen. And the adult and reasonable reaction to that is to just accept it and go and listen to the old albums that I love. And artists change. Art changes, society changes, and time moves forward, and that is just how life is. Is it something to do with the fragility and insecurity that lives deep inside all of us and the fear that the world is no longer for us? I get it. I am a man in my mid-40s who feels older and older every day as my jokes and references no longer land, and younger people I meet look at me with blank faces as I tell what are admittedly very funny and witty jokes that no one laughs at. Change is scary. Especially when perhaps we used to be somebody, when the skill you have doesn't hold the same weight anymore. We all want to feel like we have value in life, wherever we derive it from. I think there is also an element here that extends more broadly to life in general, that us human beings do have trouble with seeing other people's point of view, as we all experience our own truth through our own eyes. The man who plays the capitalist game, works hard, earns loads of money and does well in this system will of course endorse the system as being the correct or right way, because why wouldn't they? To them, their success is the truth. It's their experience and often provides the framework for which they formulate their opinions. Personally, I think one of the most important things you can do in life is learn to try and see the world through someone else's eyes and understand why someone may come to a different conclusion. And that's not easy, I know. And you can still disagree with someone, as I would disagree with the rich capitalist, but I can at least try to understand where they're coming from. So I think I get it in terms of video games and MMORPGs, but I would say that it probably doesn't have to have as much attitude attached to it. Of course, none of this changes the fact that whatever happens, some people are just arseholes. But that is probably a separate topic of conversation, and isn't just limited to hardcore players. As a genre, MMORPGs are competing with modern games and their popularity, and so they really do have to change. At least if they want to continue to be popular and make money. Look at WoW's evolution over the years. It has indeed gotten faster, removed barriers and frustrations, introduced new features and different playstyles, and whatever you may think about that, it kind of has to. And even though they've made those changes, it has been diluted somewhat from what it originally was. MMORPGs, whilst still popular, don't get me wrong, are no longer the soup du jour. Evolve or die. And those that haven't died have had to do that. Can you really survive if you target and cater to such a shallow player base? Especially if you have designs on being successful. Look at something like Pantheon. It is very firm on who that game is for, and as a result of that, there is a ceiling to how big that can get. It just isn't going to be wildly popular. Its dated features are niche. But Pantheon isn't setting out to be that big. It wants to serve a smaller community, and it is fine with that. And as I like an analogy, it's like a successful sandwich shop that just stays with one or two outlets rather than rapidly expanding, opening up branches everywhere, happy to just be a solid, small, stable and successful business in its own right. It can remain artisanal and specific, But if it wants to expand, then perhaps they will have to broaden their menu, cater to a wider set of tastes to bring in more customers and more money. And that's just it, isn't it? Capitalism is going to capitalism, and even if games, or more specifically MMORPGs, want to operate on passion and love for the game alone, they still have to exist within the current system, as much as I or anyone else doesn't like it. The fish doesn't get to opt out of the fishbowl. And if we leave money out of it, as true as it is in life as it is in MMORPGs, is that it takes all sorts. So-called casuals have a role to play, and they are important to the ecosystem that we all enjoy being part of. They spend money in the economy just as people do in real life. Maybe they craft something and you buy it, like a potion or a bit of gear. Again, just like in life, it does us no favours to value one group of people over another. Is the businessman any more important than the person working at McDonald's? This neoliberal system would tell us they are, but if you want a fucking Big Mac, then you need that person who works in McDonald's. And I want a fucking Big Mac, damn it. However guilty that might make me feel for about a million different reasons, but again, topic for another time. Everyone has worth, even if it's just another body in the virtual world adding to your experience by just simply existing and making it seem full and alive. And through all this, there is still endgame content. You can still participate in it if you want. Life is about compromise, within reasonable limits, obviously. The truth is that the genre is dying and the player base is aging. Slowly perhaps for the former, and what feels like 1,000,000 miles an hour for the latter, I am sure, but more and more people don't have the time and perhaps the money to play the game in a hardcore way, even if they wanted to. I believe the player base for MMORPGs is older. And other games now fulfill many of the same functions MMORPGs used to fulfill. What was at one time a new and novel thing where we could exist within a virtual world, talk to people from all over the place, play with people together online, is now better served somewhere else. People can just jump in a PlayStation party and chat to their friends and instantly load into a game of Fortnite or COD. The world moves on. So what is my point? Well, I guess this is my hands across the aisle plea. We need each other. Hardcore players have something to offer casuals and vice versa. As I am writing this, I am thinking of some lyrics from the propaganda song Dear Coach's Corner which feel appropriate. I wouldn't bother with these questions if I didn't sense some spiritual connection. We may not be the same, but it's not like we're from different planets. We both love this game so much we can hardly fucking stand it. He's actually talking about ice hockey there, but you get the fucking point. Anyway, we all need each other, so let's be nicer to each other and keep the games alive that we all enjoy. Okay, I am done now. You can go and call me gay and woke in the comments. Thanks for listening to my rambling stream of consciousness. Like and subscribe and what have you, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one.